Hello.
Hello.
Well, okay, good. Hello, Friday. Meeting minutes. We should probably bring those up. Well, you know, I have to say I'm encouraged because, I was on the Istio community meeting call yesterday. I occasionally make it to those. And there are times when we have more people on this call than the Istio community has on their weekly call. So that makes me feel good. All right, let's grab the link to the meeting minutes. Meeting minutes. Wow. Well, 2 minutes of chat before we get going, maybe. So one thought is that there's a bit of gratitude that I think each one of you that are on this call might owe me this morning. Unlike the usual opening that we have where I crack some rather unfunny jokes, I actually didn't do that this morning. And so you've been spared. So there is a bit of gratitude that I would expect there. So that's good. While we're waiting, Anton, I can't help but ask, where are you en route to? And I'll give you extra time to find the mute button.
I'm driving right now, but I wasn't able to join in the last couple of weeks, so I said it's better taking this from the car than not taking it at all, just to get up to date with everything.
Yeah, totally. Moreover, if for nothing else, we can make your drive your drive shorter, hopefully, just because you've got something else going on other than just the drive. Nice. Okay. Oh, Ant, are you going to be stateside here shortly?
No, not coming for the KubeCon. I was asked about this a couple times.
Yeah, no, or maybe I was thinking, weren't you just speaking at Cloud Native? Was it Cloud Native Israel or Cloud Native?
It was Cloud Native Tel Aviv, yes.
Tel Aviv. Okay. Okay, very good.
So yeah, the talk was great, even though it was a very unfortunate date because we had a severe rocket attack the day before. So the conference didn't go so well. We were expecting something like 400 people, and instead around 100 came. So
wow.
Yeah, that's Israel for you. But nevertheless, the talk went well.
Okay, well, all right. Yeah, well, I'm not sure if I have an appropriate reflection to offer there. That, kudos on the talk, I guess. Geez, okay. For whatever reason, I had thought that was held in the U.S., but I was totally confused. So there's a reason why it's called Cloud Native Tel Aviv, not. So. Yeah. So yeah, the clouds, more like thunder clouds. That day, that specific day.
But no, it wasn't that severe, specifically in Tel Aviv. No rockets fell on Tel Aviv. It was just, a lot of panic. And we're in a ceasefire now already, so it's fine. Not to worry.
Wow. Okay. Good. All right. So we are about 5-6 after now. So I'm going to go ahead and share the meeting minutes. And looks like we've got most of the folks who are on the call in the list. But if you're not in the list, or if you've got something you want to demo, or a general topic you want to discuss, these just jump into the minutes and help keep track. Edit as we go. So I wasn't able to spend a bunch of time getting some pre-announcements in here, but a few things that are top of mind. One, so like Ant and I were just talking about, the KubeCon is next week, and KubeCon has certainly been on the top of my mind and many others for the last couple of weeks. So I've been very busy trying to get ready. There are a number of activities happening. Oh man. Well, I was going to show you guys something. I'll have to go grab it. There's a few different activities happening, or like 100 different activities happening at KubeCon. But with respect to Meshery and your work, some good things. One is that we've talked about this in the past, and I think the last couple of community meetings, we demonstrated the NSM adapter, which is a NSM, network service mesh, is a bit of a different beast when you compare it to other service meshes. And so Garish and I are going to give a talk at NSMCon. NSMCon is one of like 19 day zero events. So KubeCon technically I think it's from Tuesday to Thursday. But there's this Monday is sort of the day zero, and there's a bunch of vendors and trainings and conferences happening. EnvoyCon, Service MeshCon, NSMCon, lots of meshy things going on. And so we'll be giving a talk at NSMCon. I think later that day, a book signing on Istio up and running, which is great. Another book signing on Tuesday. We'll end up doing a deep dive into the CNCF SIG network, which I've mentioned a few different times on this call, and I've given links in the meeting minutes previously to the charter for SIG network. And if any of you are subscribed to the CNCF's Technical Oversight Committee mailing list, which, by the way, is open for anyone to subscribe to, so you would have seen that just a couple of days ago there was a public vote going out for people to vote on the formation of CNCF SIG network, which is a special interest group that focuses on NATs, Linkerd, CNI, gRPC, network service mesh, networking things, service mesh things. It's the same special interest group. So as I go off to form that and co-chair that, we'll have a deep dive at KubeCon. I think it's on Thursday afternoon, I forget, to talk about what that group is and some of the things that we're looking to accomplish there. And part of what I'm hopeful that we will accomplish there is likely bringing Meshery through that special interest group into the CNCF sandbox at some point. We are on the very brink of meeting part of the sandbox requirement, which is part of the requirement, like it or not, is GitHub stars. And last I checked, and I check every 5 minutes or so, there are 97 Meshery or stars on the Meshery repo. And so my call to action there is, if you haven't started the repos yet, go do that, please. And Jesus joins us on the community call today, and Jesus is gonna talk here in just a little bit. We're gonna get introduced, but Jesus, just a note for you as you go to be a local community leader and bringing on other folks. Have them star the repos if they're inclined. That will really help get the project. We're almost there. Moreover, if the project gets to 300 stars, which I'll be checking every 5 minutes or so again. We'll absolutely get the project listed in the CNCF landscape. I've had a number of projects listed there in the past, so hopefully we'll get this one there. Next week ends up being a little bit of marketing for Meshery. I called out the book signings, not because I like talking about myself, but because I'd shown each of you in the past, and I don't know if you can see it now, but the Istio Up and Running book, it calls out Meshery, I don't know, I don't remember, 4 places or so. It also calls out the service mesh landscape, I think twice. It calls out Meshery so much that there's a whole section in the index about Meshery. And so point of the book signing is, as the books are being handed out, I'll be stuffing in a bookmark that says, hey, here's Meshery and go check it out. And it's the bookmark that I forgot. I'm going to come bring it and show it to you and see if you guys like it. I'll give you the digital copy of the bookmark, actually, so in case you want to use it or print it out, or that you can. Point there is that we're doing what we can to promote this community and the work that you guys are doing. And part of that I've been mentioning on our calls is the notion that right now there's a single web page that describes Meshery and what it does. And it's all right. It's the layer5.io/Meshery, but that we've been desirous of Meshery having its own website, and on the Wednesday development meeting, of which, now that I mentioned the Wednesday development meeting, I recognize not everyone has an invite to that, and let me say, that's not to be exclusive in any regard. We had originally created a weekly recurring Wednesday morning US time call so that we could make sure to spend the right amount of, so we can make sure we had an early morning call and the right amount of time was being spent deep diving on issues that many of the students in India are working on. And as such, they were initially only invited. And so I think we need to revisit some of our weekly meetings and their timings, considering the influx of community contributors that we've had. So maybe we'll put a pin in that. We'll come back and figure out what those right times are. I'll probably call for a vote or send out some suggestions and see if there are other times that work for people. Because on this call, the community call, we end up we don't always get to deep dive. And some of you are certainly working on things that are complex enough that really need to some dedicated time to think through and talk aloud about. So my point of saying that on the last Wednesday call, we said, look, it's time for us to take the meshery.io as a domain name and put a site behind it. And everyone raised their hand to say, hey, they'd like to help, and that's fantastic. So Girish went out late last night and kind of kick-started that site. And so I've been hesitant. We were hesitant to kind of call it out this morning because it's not done, which is fine because I think all of you can make your mark on it if you want. B, right now, it is very tentative. There's one portion that concerns me. And you know what? Since we're talking about it, let me just bring it up and share it. So it's meshery.io. And I'll share it. Oh, I guess I am sharing it. And so there's been all of about an hour's and a half worth of work put into this. It looks not too shabby already. And so, it's my belief that, like, hey, Meshery as a project needs to have its own place. It certainly is highly affiliated with the Layer 5 community, but Meshery isn't the only project that we're doing. Let me take a quick note that I also need to tell you guys about a new Linux Foundation, a new Linux Foundation project that's being established. So akin to the CNCF, there's another Linux Foundation group that's being formed. So I'm just taking a quick note because I want to tell you about that and when Meshery's play inside of there. So anyway, going back to the site, take a look at the site. If you see things wrong, which no doubt you will, and things that need to be enhanced, get busy on making changes. We're going to be pointing hundreds of people to the site next week. There's one thing that concerns me about the site that I don't think that we've got right. And like I said, we put in about 90 minutes on the site, and so I don't. We've been thinking and desiring to make sure that we're giving back, that everyone that's spending time here is getting rewarded, that's getting a lot out of being here. And particularly those of you who are here now, sort of early in the project's life cycle, early in what I would expect all of the hundreds of other people to come to the project. So we're trying to make what considerations we can. Jesus is here with us today. He is, and actually maybe I'm gonna digress for a second and talk about community, and I want to talk about Jesus and part of his focus. And so what concerns me is we've got a community page right now that has like a couple of us called out that that we just randomly pick some folks and put them up there to see what this type of a layout looks like. My desire is that, and I think many of you who've been here for a long time understand that I've asked each of you for your pictures, that I want to make sure that we've got your physical mailing address, because we want to send you stuff, buttons, bookmarks, books, other things, just to say thank you and help you learn and encourage you to share the project with others. Part of that is also giving you a spot to make blog posts, to speak in conferences. The talk that Girish is giving at NSMCon, we had originally put Harshini on as a speaker on that talk. And so we very much desire to put many of you on stage to the extent that you'd either like to do that or you're not, or you're already doing it but would like to do more. So anyway, my concern about this page is that that the underlying issue about this page is creating something of a contribution ladder, if you will, or creating some roles within the community. And I think some roles, as I say these first two, contributor and maintainer, for the most part resonate with each of you on the call, that you'd have some sense of what you consider those roles are. But there's many other roles. There's documentation and being an ambassador, being a steward of the community. There's many ways in which people contribute to a project. And there's many ways in which some people contribute a little bit, some people contribute a whole ton. And I want to be as purposeful as we can about ensuring that everyone's efforts are being recognized and rewarded, and that it's done in a fair, even-handed, and uplifting way, such that anyone who's just giving a small bit of effort feels like they're being recognized proportionally, but that there's a carrot for them to contribute even more or get involved even more, and that the way in which they're recognized follows, is done in proportion to their time spent here. So anyway, it's a very sensitive thing for me, or a sensitive area for me, because I consider it's people get it wrong all the time. I really don't want that to happen in this community, and it's been heartening to me as I've engaged with many of you. That even in our first conversations, I've heard many of you, as you digest the project and you make a comment, I've heard you say, so I feel like our projects should do such and such. And I get, I'm tickled when I hear that come out of your mouth, when you say, our landing page should do such and such, or should look, when you've internalized the project as yours and you have a sense of ownership, that's makes me feel happy, because it makes me feel like you've been embraced and you're part of the community. So Sorry for the really long-winded 20-minute harangue. Suffice to say, there's the semblance of a Meshery.io. There's a new project logo, a new project font that you may have seen. There's other things going on. Girish, what am I not telling people? What else is going on that we're not?
I cannot think of anything new. I think I did add a few items, like, in the earlier sections of the general topics. Have you covered them all? Because I did not hear you talk about our presentation at the community call last week, and the Hamlet discussion.
Yeah, that's right, Hamlet. And okay, so maybe I'll give one other update, and then you can speak about VMware's engagement with Hamlet. We should also speak of, I think last week, most of you would have met Daraj, who was from Citrix on the call. Citrix and VMware has already been contributing to Meshery, but Citrix is going to be very shortly as well. So the one last thing that I'll give an update on is earlier I mentioned that there's a new Linux Foundation project being formed, of which Layer 5 is going to join and help form. The name of it, I think I might have mentioned it on the call before, but it's called Workload Profile Definition and Measurement. The point of this new project, this new Linux Foundation subgroup, and it's not related to the CNCF, it would be a sibling to the CNCF. The point of it is to, well, sort of literally do what its title calls it, which is to describe how it is that the environment in which a given workflow executes and some characteristics about the workflow, and then really describe a way in which you measure the performance of the infrastructure that that workload is running on. And the initial focus of that group is more toward IaaS and VMs, but we've been asked to join up and create a a sub project within there for specific to service meshes. And for all of you who've run Meshery and you've done the performance test and you see the results back in the UI, those same results, an anonymous collection of those happens, and we're trying to provide some statistical analysis over those results and hopefully in a good way kind of inform the world about the performance of service meshes in general. Well, the way in which those performance test results are formatted, the way in which the performance test itself is described, the environment in which you're running the test, so what service mesh you're running, at what version, what type of workload you're running, what sort of cluster you're in, is it a 30-node cluster or a 2-node at this many gigs of memory and CPU and stuff. That requires a specification. Like we're taking and defining a specification that tracks that, and that will be the focus of the subgroup that we will create inside the new Linux Foundation project. While Layer 5 as an entity will fork over some money to go join and participate, none of you need, if that interests any of you, none of you need to pay anything to join or to participate there. So I'll put some links in here as that goes along. It technically hasn't formed yet. There was going to be a press release at KubeCon next week about it. We just haven't gotten far enough along, so it'll actually be probably just after Thanksgiving. So with that, I'm going to be quiet because I'm getting sick of hearing my own voice at this point. I'm going to go grab the bookmarks that I was kind of excited to show you guys. While I do, maybe Girish, you could walk people through the last week's presentation, and I know Rafi has an item to discuss. We also need to circle back to introducing Jesus. So I'm going to run, go grab those bookmarks because I know everybody can't wait to see them. So.
Cool. That was good. I'll try doing a Meshery just a second. One of the other things which we probably didn't mention today, which I think I'm going to probably demo now, I'm going to try, is actually the integration with another load generator, which is AWRK. You guys would have heard about it, we talking about it quite a few times. Just a second. I'm going to share my screen in a second now, so you guys don't have to look at something else when I'm talking. So, all right. So the interesting thing though is, if you guys know the challenges of presenting in Catalina, which is the new Mac operating system, it has its interesting challenges with presenting. All right, I think I was able to get past it. Okay, so if you guys can see my screen, okay, now hold on. Okay, there you go. So I hope you guys can see my screen, and you guys are now staring at the Meshery screen. Of course, you guys are aware of all these new changes that were added. The first thing is the NSM integration in the UI, so you can actually see the nice network service mesh logo and the recent changes which were contributed by Haim for the Octarine adapter. So we have their nice logo as well now, so which is fantastic. I am connected to a Kubernetes cluster. Everybody knows about it. So, and then I have an NSM adapter that's running on port 10,004. You can see now the adapter is connected. And then here's the adapter page. So the first things first is I'm going to actually show the installation of the NSM adapter. But I do have the adapter already installed on the cluster, which I was planning on using for this demo because I was playing with it just to ensure things were working fine, because I have an open PR. So what I'm going to show now is not yet integrated into the master branch yet. But I'm just going to check if I have everything in place. Excellent. So I'm going to first remove NSM because I already have NSM installed on my thing. Just give me a second. I'm going to share my screen so I can also show the terminal. And 2 minutes. Share Windows. How can I share my screen here? It's interesting. Didn't seem to present me with that option. Oh, there you go. Window. Okay. My bad. Oh, fantastic. So now I hope in the next few seconds you should see my screen. And so here's a window. I'm going to close this one because that's just a distraction. So here, this was my environment, and you can see that I already had an NSM deployed. Now I actually initiated the removal process of NSM from this namespace. So I'm just going to do it again, and you can see all the pods were removed. So now going back to this, and then I'm going to now just ask it to deploy again. Now one of the things we did was we have actually pinned it to a specific version of the NSM images, because what we noticed is that the NSM folks are actually making quite a few changes this week. I mean, given that they have the NSM Con next week, so which is understandable. So what we did was we actually tested the NSM version which works, and we have actually pinned it so that when we now deploy it from Meshery, we will actually have the version which worked a few days back, and it'll continue to work up until next week. So hopefully there will be a time when we will switch to Helm. I do have some proof of concepts which are functional in that direction, but I've not yet integrated it because it requires more testing, so I haven't done that. But the good thing is that once we have that working integrated into the adapters, we can actually have it working for all the adapters, so that every adapter can actually leverage Helm rather than using a generated YAML at some point in time. So that'll actually be a good step forward for us. Just a second. 3 times. Wow. All right, so we now saw NSM is deployed and it's all ready to go. And then we created this new Hello NSM application. I don't think I have had a chance to explain this application better, but now I've done a minor tweak to it yesterday. So now we have two endpoints, which is kind of a nice thing to actually show the end user. First, before I talk further, I'm going to deploy it on the cluster. I'm going back, and you can see I'm watching the pods in that namespace, and now you can see the two pods come up. App A and B, and they have the right NSM annotations. So you can see this pod contains 3 containers and this pod contains 2 containers. So the app B is actually, in their terminology, is the NSE, which is the endpoint, and app A is the NSC, which is the network service mesh client. Now I have created 2 endpoints in that application. Now the first thing is we can get the port of app A, which is our endpoint, which is our entry point. And then I have two paths defined there. One is a K8S. So if you do K8S, now here it actually we put a reasonably decent diagram there, which explains what this app does. And you can see at the bottom it also shows that it received data. Welcome to NSM, and this data actually came from app B, and then it is actually so app A is communicated with app B over the Kubernetes network, and you can see the service name that it used. So now it is not actually using NSM for communication; it's actually using the Kubernetes network for communication. Now I have another endpoint, and you can see here this time the image changed. And it actually shows that app A communicated with app B over the NSM network. And you can see it used the IP address of the pod for app B, and it actually received the data from app B. So this is our demo. So this is the NSM endpoint, and then we have the Kubernetes endpoint. Now, what we could probably do is we can actually use this for load testing from within Meshery. So I think it'll be an interesting thing to show, if the NSM endpoints, have any, have any delays, extra latencies added. So I'm just going to go with 1 query per second. I don't want to run for long, so 20 seconds, and then so hopefully you should see the load test work. So it's actually now using the Kubernetes network for communicating between apps A and B. Because it's only when we bring microservices this exercise becomes interesting. While we are on this page, this is the other thing which I was planning on showing, which is the WRK2. So this was recently integrated into Meshery. We have 2 separate projects. One is actually a fork of WRK2, which was further customized by Sako. And then I added a little bit of sol here and there to make it work better with Meshery. And then we also created another interface project called GoWRK2. And now Meshery uses the GoWRK2 as a library to talk to WRK and to perform the load test. Now, but this time I did perform the load test with Fort.io, and you can see we did get some results. So the same way, I'm going to actually, do the same test with WRK. So probably that'll be an interesting exercise. Let's see if that works. Okay, so looks like, yeah, I'm sorry. I might not be able to do it now because right now I'm running Meshery on local, and WRK2, does not build on a Mac Catalina at the moment. We are still figuring it out. But if you guys are running Meshery in a Docker container, you will have that working without any issues. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I didn't plan for that. Now, the other thing I was planning on showing was now using the NSM network to actually perform the load test. And then we can, once we have the load test done, we can actually go into our results pane, or the page, and compare the results, which is kind of one of the good things with Meshery. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not able to show the WRK2 right now, but it's tested, so you guys should not have any issues, getting it to work on your local, because if you're running it in a container, everything is tested in a container, bundled, and everything is ready to be consumed there. So you can see, the 2 tests, with NSM and without NSM were done, and we can actually compare the results the way we used to. And yeah, so there's like very little difference between the two. But it's definitely an interesting use case to actually show and present on stage. So this is kind of like, one of the things we're planning on doing it next week. Hopefully, like I'll have a few more slides put together and maybe better organize the demo so that I'll not have any stupid issues during the on-stage presentation. But that's pretty much like what I wanted to actually show today. So one was the NSM sample application, the NSM install itself being pinned to a specific version so that we don't have any last minute issues. And the integration of WRK2, which unfortunately I'm not able to show right now because I'm running Meshery without, not in a container, but on my Mac. So, that's not going to work. But yeah, that's pretty much like a one.
Nice. Very good. Anybody have any comments for Girish? For my part, I'm happy that we're almost done with the integration of a second load generator, in part because, because it's never really generated much conversation on this call, but it's been clearly an ask from some of the more sophisticated users of Meshery, and particularly from some of the service meshes themselves, that they're looking to be measured in particular ways. So that's good. So, all right, good. Two more subjects, actually three. So one of them was just the notion that I'd said, hey, there's a couple of book signings next week, and we'll be doing. Sorry, we'll be handing out some of these, or shoving some of these cards or bookmarks into the books. And what they do is they point people to Meshery. So that's nice. The other thing, there's a few different things, but one of them is there's a big old bag of pins that we'll be handing out as well. You'll either be impressed to know or not, I don't know, that all of these pins were made by my loved ones, my family, and actually so were all of these bookmarks, so I owe them a debt of gratitude on that. They had some busy hands over the last few weeks trying to make those. But those are nice. So we're going to have to get some in the mail to each of you as well. Last note on KubeCon probably, and that is that yesterday I'd sent out, so I know Chaim, who's on the call, will be at KubeCon. Maybe this is only for Chaim, I'm not sure. I think it was the last tweet under layer 5 that talks about an Istio meetup happening on a boat. And so I'll put the link in our meeting minutes, but so one, Istio was recently recognized as the fastest growing, or the 4th fastest growing open source project, if you count the number of new contributors coming to it. If anyone's going to be there, you can go to istio.voyage, and there's a form to fill in if you want to attend that meetup. So on a boat. Do note that if you're there and you take the cruise, once the boat leaves the dock, you're kind of stuck there. So, okay, very good. There's 2 other things that we need to get to. So one of those is Rafi, your recent work. Do you want to tell people about that and maybe share it?
Yeah. So basically, we have the landscape page, right, on the Layer 5 website, and currently it's just a list of meshes, of categories and such. But Lee has a kind of a vision for it, turning it into kind of an opinionated comparative piece where people can kind of look at it and see, get really an opinion presented by Layer 5 about which of these meshes and such might be useful to them specifically. So To do that, Lee has provided some example documents to me that are kind of useful graphics for presenting these comparative analysis. And what I've done so far is I've tried to work those into the Layer 5's landscape page, see how those kind of fit in, and see what I can do to kind of turn those into tools that future contributors can use to to create these comparative spectrums. Because I don't have the knowledge to present an analysis, but I do have the knowledge to allow to create these tools to allow people to present these analyses. So I've currently taken a few of these tools from the examples and ported them into the Layer 5 website, and hopefully continue to work on that the next upcoming weeks to refine those and have a set of tools that people can use in the future to start presenting this data kind of more visually to people more interested in specific meshes.
Oh yeah. Oh, this is This is where the landscape goes from just being a collection of facts into something that's actually digestible, understandable, and provides actual insight. Because there's no insight in the fact. Well, or I guess you could argue that there's insight, but not super helpful. And so Rafi stepped up to the challenge. Actually, I'm very excited about it because it actually will make it. I feel like we get, and Rafi, I think I shared some of the how much traffic that the site gets, and the fact that the landscape gets quite a bit of that traffic. That I expect, Rafi, and we may as well track it after this PR, after you complete this collaborative work, just how much traffic it gets. I'm gonna go tell a few people about it, and I expect, I expect discussion.
Yeah, that should be interesting.
Now, this is actually a good point of thought, point of reflection for each of you that are on the call. Is that what Rafi is doing is laying out these spectrums, and as an example, one of the spectrums that would potentially be there is to say, well, hey, here's a collection of service meshes. On one end are service meshes that are really made much more for network engineers and those that understand what a VXLAN is and BGP and blah blah blah. And there's there's myriad list of networking terms. Or on the other hand, there's the ones that are really suited and oriented towards developers. And my ask of each of you here is give some consideration as to what spectrums, what comparisons that you think might be of interest to people who are trying to. This spectrum is not for the producers of the meshes. Those are the folks that we expect to hopefully be happy about this and not be up in arms about this. But this is really for people who are trying to understand what the heck a mesh is, what are the various ones, and given their environment and who they are, what they understand, what they do, maybe which one they should go spend some time looking at, because maybe that's the right one. And so the ask there is think about what spectrum should be there. Maybe it's a spectrum around security. Maybe it's a spectrum on observability. Just like, hey, anyway, I won't go through more examples, but think about it. And I absolutely will be. I'll be offering up a fair bit of opinion, which actually, Rafi, reminds me, if we don't have a profile picture of you, ping me and make sure that we do. And as long as you're okay with me putting your face on things, I will. I'm going to be telling people about not telling people about the good work that's there. I will be there adjacent to you to take the blame for it being wrong. You will be there to be the recipient of how beautiful it looks and how well it informs people.
Oh, I don't mind an angry email or two. That's just icing on the cake. Thank you. I'll get you that profile pic.
Yeah, nice. Good. Yeah, good. You may have tougher skin than I do. That would be good. And then another topic that we've had is that Jesus is on the call, and I've gotten to spend a little bit of time with Jesus, but I'm not sure that everyone else has. So, Jesus, if you can, do you want to give an introduction?
Yeah, sure. Hi all, nice to meet you. And I'm from Mexico, from Monterrey, Mexico, and we are trying to join our local community to start working on the awesome Layer 5 projects, because we are like trying to create more Mexican contributors around the world. So we are interested in contribute on this project. So the whole idea is to create like a local group of contributors from Meshery and from the Layer 5 projects, and that is the whole plan. And I am starting contributing with some issues, but the idea is if you have a good first issues to start, please add the label, and I'm going to assign those labels into the Mexican team. So that is like the word picture of what I am doing here.
Yeah, I'm putting in a quick note into the chat. I should probably be putting it into the meeting minutes, but into the chat to say that there's around 10 or so folks that Jesus is bringing over and are, I think, excited about participating. They've been jumping into some things. Each of them are in the various. Thanks for that, Jesus. By the way, so you don't look like the Unabomber anymore with your like dark profile.
Yeah.
But each of them are in the channel called OSOM, Open Source of Mexico. So Jesus is a local community leader in and around the topics of open source and DevOps. And while he has a full-time role, he's doing what he can to help spread some open source love. And as such, I think we're fortunate in being a place that these guys are considering to make their mark. And so I want to make sure that we're warmly embracing and helping, giving each of these guys the right support and introduction and spending some time. And so when I was speaking earlier to weekly meetings and how some of these might need to change, so certainly taking into account the notion that there's a large collection of people joining from Monterey that we need to account for in those meetings. Moreover, so Jesus, you and I, / the project got connected, I think in part from some of my time in Guadalupe, giving a workshop there. And my reason about
Guadalajara.
Oh, Guadalajara. Yeah, thank you. Why did I say Guadalupe? Wow. All right. I'm sorry. Yes, Guadalajara. How could I have forgotten? I think it might have been, I don't know, all the tequila on Mexican Independence Day. Okay. That was a lot of tequila. Anyway, point is, Jesus, there's actually a few contributors who've joined that live in Guadalajara that I need to introduce to you, because I think that they would very much so benefit from the energy and the community, the ambassadorship that you're giving. They would. And there's actually there's a few, so that's on my to-do list.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is Juan Sedano is the way that is trying to try the Meshery CTL versus the old script. Sedano is from Guadalajara.
Oh, okay. Wait, say his name again.
Sedano, another folk that is working on the issue of
Yeah.
replicate all Meshery script.
Yeah.
He's from Guadalajara.
Oh, is he? Oh, okay. Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
He's an native clothes foundation ambassador.
Huh. Okay.
Native clothes computing foundation ambassador.
Okay.
From
Well, then I'm surprised that I don't know him already. Huh. Okay. Well, we'll. There's more to talk about there. That's good.
yeah.
So here's another thing that. So I get. Let me take a note. One of the things that I'd said that I'd like for us to have is something of a contribution ladder. I don't know that ladder is really the right term, but really a purposeful outline of the ways in which we track code and non-code contribution, the various roles that that the community has and how we can help support those, and sort of what's expected of those roles. Yeah, that's a to-do item for me there. There's another to-do item. This is unfortunate that there's too many. There's a few different arrows pointing at me, but to-do item there to provide Rafi the right feedback. Gosh, I feel like there's something else we're missing. I'm not sure. So layer 5 as an entity is joining up into the CNCF, which is good. I had mentioned before, it'll also join this new Linux Foundation project as well. We talked about the Meshery.io, the website, and how that needs to be, how we need to, spend more than just 90 minutes on what it is. And I want to make sure everyone has equal representation, or there's a contributor collage. So Gungeon, actually, I think, took up the gauntlet on the all contributors org and evaluating whether or not allcontributors.org, that GitHub integration is going to work for us.
Yes, sir.
How far along did you get, or what does that look like? So there's a bot that we can install on GitHub that will highlight contributors to various.
Okay, sir. I'll look into this issue after completing my present issue. So I'm working on 2 different issues.
Oh, okay, got it.
Okay.
No problem. So for everyone else's benefit, if I haven't talked about it enough, I've said in the past that we want to make, get people recognized for what they're doing. There's various ways to do that. One of those is potentially using a bot like this all contributors bot that we would just, give permission to the Meshery repo, all of the Meshery repos, and it would help automate the upkeep of adding people's profiles for those that have contributed to the project into the README. So right now, this bot has access to the layer 5 repo and one of the adapter repos, I think. And what it does is just auto updates the README for that repository each time that someone makes a contribution or a push is done. And so this could work for us. I think Gungeon is going to help us give it a try. Maybe that works, maybe it doesn't, but I'm calling it out because there's some progress there. And if people have other ideas, don't hesitate to call them out. So last time, just as a reminder, as we go to close here, I had said that I think most of you were on the call when I said Forrester, an analyst firm, had recently reached out. They wanted to know more about Meshery. I told them they leveraged the layer. Oh, so Rafi, I don't think you were here last time, so make sure I get you these links. As a matter of fact, if you go inside of the Meshery team drive, you'll find a copy of half of there was a presentation and a full written report talking about service meshes and their landscape, and this principal analyst at Forrester, used the layer 5 landscape very heavily to create his report. Oh, this is Rafi, this is gonna be really funny, man. He gave a presentation and he made a visual, and it's not very good. So I want to make sure that all of you have access to it. I think that visual is already in the team drive. There's an there's a report that accompanies the presentation, and it talks about the various service meshes that are out there, but it particularly highlights the concept of the management plane, the multi-mesh manager like Meshery, and it does that mostly because I bent the guy's ear and told him that he should think of the world differently, and so he did, and he included it, and I'm appreciative of it, and I think you will be too, because Meshery's all in there. I didn't put the report inside of the drive because technically, you know, it's one of those things that you're supposed to pay for, and so I was not wanting to, you know, go, you know, break any laws or what have you, but the presentation, yep, I think it's under presentations, so there's a webinar given here. It covers, you know, some of what the report does or talks about, but if you're really interested in the report and kind of what's in there, you know, poke at me and we'll talk. All right, did we miss anything? Any updates from folks?
Lee, can you please repeat the number of stars we need in the Meshery and why we need that?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. As a matter of fact, Shubham, who sends his regrets today, he's not in the call, but he sends his regrets, that I think right now we're at 97 stars for Meshery. The 100 star mark or getting to 100 stars is important because that's one of the criteria, the entrance criteria for an open source project to land inside of the CNCF sandbox, which unless something strategically changes, that's the course, that's the path that Meshery is on. So we're actually very close to kind of hitting that mark. Ideally, we would have way more than that. So 100 for the sandbox. Beyond that, the 300 mark, the 300 mark means that we can put Meshery into the CNCF landscape.
Awesome.
And I've put a couple of projects into the landscape in the past. And so we shouldn't have any issue there. This is the landscape. Hopefully I'm sharing it if for those of you who haven't seen it before. There's also two other areas as to why we would want, or why stars are important. One of those, and this, hopefully this pricks everyone's ear, is that about this time last year, about 8 months ago, Chaim and I were at a conference. It's called the Open Source Leadership Summit. I was there presenting about how to, you know, create an open source program office. But what was announced at that conference, so this is like, you know, 8 months or so ago, I forget, was this concept of the community bridge. So if you're familiar with Patreon or like small ways to donate to people who are working on open source projects, the Linux Foundation has created this community bridge that lets you lets a company or an individual fund a project, an open source project. And in order for a project to enter into this community bridge, there's again a certain number of stars that needs to be met. And I honestly forget what those are. I think I forget what that number is. It might be 500, it might be 300. It was in the hundreds. So another reason for getting some stars, it would be, it would be really neat if the project was funded through there. I'll say this, and I'll probably say it 15 other times from now. Should the project ever get funding through there, that will absolutely not come to me. We will devise a way in which that gets divvied up amongst the folks that are here. There's no way I'm receiving that. So, yeah. So anyway, point is, tell your friends, go star the repo.
Yeah, I recently asked to the awesome people. Sorry, the awesome people too. I think that there is now in the number.
So, we are past 100 stars.
Oh yeah! All right. Oh, I'm
Awesome.
good. Oh, we just hit 102, like just in that second. I'm gonna go do a little dance. Oh man. You guys don't want to see me do the dance. That's the thing. Oh my gosh. Oh, very good. Oh, very good. Okay. Well, we're over time. Jesus, thanks for that. If no one has anything else, anybody have anything else before we jump off? Chaim, next week, lunch, dinner, it's on you, I think.
Definitely on me. Yes, that would be great.
Nice. Good. Chaim, if you get a chance, if you talk with Rafi, I did not. Beth was to reach out to me to do a little bit of PR work, and she has not. So just in case you touch base with Raphael, to let him know that there's nothing pending on my side that he might want to poke on his side. So. Okay.
I'll tell him that. All right. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks all. Talk to everyone later.
Bye.
Bye guys.
See you. Bye.
Bye guys. Bye.